Welcome back, everyone. Bear down. It's the middle of the night, and I just recorded a half-hour session and looked down, and the microphone was turned off. So we got to record this thing all over again. And it was free spitting it, guys. So you're going to get my thoughts all over again, and I hope I do as good a job as I did the first time, or maybe I'll do better. Who knows? But it's Free Talk Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Those who haven't seen the channel before, this is my 4th episode of Free Talk Tuesday. Every Tuesday morning, I'll come at you with just spitballing my thoughts and feelings about where things are headed with the Chicago Bears, and I really appreciate you tuning in. This channel has only been around since around December, when the season was coming to a close. There was already controversy boiling. It was looking like we've had the number 1 overall pick, and the controversy of Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields versus blah, 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 blah. So I started this channel for my own take because I like stats and analysis and backing for my basis. I like having a reason for believing what I believe. So I told you guys last week that this Free Talk Tuesday was going to be all about the quarterback tape that I watch. And it will. It'll have that in there. But then Ryan Poles spoke yesterday at the winter meetings, and he's going to make me speak on what he said because there's a lot to delve into to what he said. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on his 15, 16-minute interview that he had at the winter meetings in Orlando, Florida yesterday. And I'm going to give you just my thoughts and ideas about watching all of the tape of these guys over again. And I'm not going to say I watched every single snap, but I watched a significant chunk of tape over the weekend between family events and things that were going on. So that's what we're going to go over today. Thanks for tuning in. If you don't mind hitting the like button, if you haven't subscribed, I appreciate you doing so. But let's get right into this, because there's a lot of meat and potatoes going on right now. And with Ryan Poles, I've learned he can shoot straight while lying at the same time. And I don't mean your dirty lies, I mean white lies. Hiding agendas, which they all do. This is considered lying season for a reason, guys. This is the time of year when teams have to mask what they're doing, but also need to get to the bottom of their agenda of where they're heading with things. And one thing that was very clear from his conversation, his interview yesterday, and if you haven't seen that, I did post it on the channel. I did it with a big bear head over him because I'm trying to make sure I don't break any copyright issues. And who knows if I did or didn't, but I might take that video down. I might not. We'll see what happens. But it's all over now. I was trying to get it when I haven't seen it myself and finally got a copy of it. But he said a lot in there. And there's a lot of things that stuck out. And he talked about everything from Caleb Williams to the Justin Fields trade to the ongoing process, to how they'll handle the rest of this, to free agency, to the trades, to coming up to the draft. So there's a lot of meat and potatoes in there. So we'll get into all of that. And we'll also get into how I feel about Caleb Williams, his tape, how he fares generationally, as he's been deemed a generational prospect. And I will tell you, his stock is higher than ever. He's doing all the right things. He's saying all the right things. He's putting on the right face. He's following the Bears on Twitter. He's making the right likes on Twitter. He's making himself likable. He's letting stories proceed, and he is becoming a darling. He's becoming the darling of the draft. And that could be great for the Bears in multiple ways. So let's start first with the big question that was asked right at the beginning was the decision of Justin Fields. And what we've learned is that this decision was not taken lightly, and that we're going to pat ourselves on the back for a second here. Pat. Everyone that is criticizing and mocking and saying Justin Fields it wasn't ascending and he was the issue and it was all Justin Fields and he's the problem and death to Justin Fields. Ryan Poles put that to rest by saying it was a hard decision because he was improving. And that's exactly what we've said on here. He was improving every year, and we showed that. Now, I've never claimed Justin Fields was a top 10 quarterback. Said he has the potential to be so. Never claimed that he was the number 1 quarterback in the league ahead of Pat Mahomes or anything like that. But the reality is, This came down to salary cap, and he made that abundantly clear. Let me check my notes because we are doing this as free talk, and that's what this session is. But he specifically mentioned, and he made it abundantly clear, it was a financial decision. He said it wasn't just Justin versus the rookies. It was about the rookie clock and the salary cap. So he confirmed that. Now, you can take that several ways, but the reality is the Bears have the first overall pick. And so when you're looking at this from a 10,000-foot level, and he even quoted DJ Moore in saying business is business. He said DJ Moore said that. And he talked about how they preserved the locker room by calling the key players and letting them know what was happening and letting them know why. And you don't have to do that, but doing that really helps build trust and rapport with these players. But he said it was business, and it came down to that in the end. And even though Justin was improving, we had the 1-1 pick. We have our choice of 6 quarterbacks in this class that are deemed starter worthy. Now, the media has absolutely run away with the fact that Caleb Williams is generational. And he might be. We'll see. I've watched this tape repeatedly, and I rewatched it. And I don't want to be be the big segment of this, but I will give you my take on it. Caleb Williams has some very special qualities about him. And when he decides to throw the ball, he can zip it quick. He can get it where it needs to go. He has velocity. He has good decisiveness once he decides. But there's a lot of the issues that Justin Fields had that Caleb Williams has. And he does hold on to the ball way too long. And people excusing that because of Caleb Williams' line in college and not excusing Justin Fields is kind of bizarre to me. Because Caleb Williams did the same thing as Justin Fields, which was the biggest weakness that I didn't like, was he would not force it in or he would not anticipate in a way he needed to. Now, Caleb Williams would often look off first reads that were wide open and then not anticipate when he needed to throw again. Instead, he would break pocket, he would scramble, which he was very good at, until someone became wide open. That does not translate to the NFL for me. That scares me. That worries me. And he took a ton of sacks because of it. He has a very strong arm. But when you're comparing him to players like Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, who read the field extremely well, who anticipate where their receivers are going to be and that they're going to be open, and they throw it with anticipation, I very much prefer those players over a player who can't read that way at the NFL level. It's not going to translate well to me. So in my opinion, there's 6 players in this draft that could be starters year one. Now, should they be? Maybe not all of them, but they could be. And that came into the decision factor for Ryan Poles of trading, because he traded Justin. He did right by Justin Fields. He traded him somewhere where he can compete in year one. He made that abundantly clear. The Steelers was a prime opportunity for Justin to compete with Russell Wilson. He has a better shot there than almost anywhere else. It's pretty clear that the Steelers are not going to be drafting a quarterback this year. And if they do, it'll probably be a late-round prospect that they can develop beneath these guys. It's not going to be someone to come in and start year one. So you've got the Bears. You've got the Commanders. You've got the Patriots. You got the Giants, who I don't think the Giants are necessarily going to either. We'll see what happens. But you got those 4. Then you've got, in the next tier down, and I mean tier by where they're picking, the Vikings, the Broncos, and the Raiders. So you got 7 teams there that could be picking a quarterback. So you're going to have teams fighting for these 6 guys. Now, a lot of people are deeming Caleb Williams generational. And then there's Drake May and Jaden Daniels behind him. And then you've got J.J. McCarthy. And you've got Bo Nix. And you've got Michael Penix Jr. Now, in my opinion, that's not the correct order for these guys for how they're NFL ready and how their game will translate to the NFL. I think it's Jaden Daniels 1, Bo Nix 2, Caleb Williams 3. And they're in the top tier to me. Those 3 guys should be top 15 quarterbacks, in my opinion. Should be. Maybe not year one, but they should be top 15 quarterbacks if they're developed properly and if they get into the right system and if they do it the right way. Caleb Williams could be a top 10 quarterback, but so could Jaden Daniels. Bo Nix, if he's in the right system, if he goes to the Broncos with Sean Payton and they compare him to Drew Brees and Brock Purdy, that could be a very ideal situation for him. I can see him ascending year one. I think players like J.J. McCarthy and Drake May and Michael Penix Jr. need a little bit more time and need the right system, need to be built up. Whoever goes to the Patriots is going to be in the same Justin Fields type of situation where it's going to be a rough go for a little bit. Same as Bryce Young. Just a rough go until they get the team turned around. So that's where I saw things when I was evaluating that. Well, now you look at Ryan Pohl's conversation that he had at the winter meetings, and you see how he was talking, and he was giving high praise to Caleb Williams. Now, he never answered and said Caleb is our quarterback or anything along those lines. In fact, he kept saying we need to continue the process, gain clarity as we move forward, and continue to finish this process, finish the process. I think they have a good idea where they're headed. And that's why I've said on this channel, 90% Caleb. I really do think they love Caleb. They think he's a solid PR move, that he's job security, that he's got a sharp arm that they can work with, that Shane Waldron and company can mold him into being a quarterback, that if they can work with Geno Smith, they can definitely work with Caleb Williams to make him into something special. They can fix those hitches. They can fix those things that he does have a quirk with, that he bails out a little bit early, where he doesn't read with anticipation, or he doesn't lead his receivers, tries to play hero ball, doesn't take the first check down. Because 1 to 10 yards is where Caleb Williams excels. Brock Purdy style. But he's not doing that. He's trying to play hero ball. Not going to get too much into that. But that's where that stands. So they didn't commit to him. But they said his teammates love him. He's intentional. Every feedback we've gotten was good, even from staff members and even from people within the organization and the training staff. That they all love him. They don't just like him, they love him. Caleb Williams will be coming in for his top 30 visit in April, where they'll drill him. They'll give him their medical. And we don't know if he hasn't already given the medical to the Bears. He might have already given his independent medical to them. They're still going to do their medical at the top 30 visit. He also talked about examples where Caleb looked so good in building the bond of the team, that he had all this NIL money. We're in a new generation now, and that he was known to have taken his linemen out to dinner, known to have bought them Christmas gifts. Those were all good things. And they said that Ryan Pohl said someone nudged him and said, "Did you notice at dinner that Caleb Williams never looked down at his phone once?" In this 22-year-old generation where Twitter and everything is so big, and we've seen Caleb Williams daily on Twitter now, as he's preparing for the draft. He's on there daily, liking stuff and doing his thing. That in that meeting, he didn't look at his phone once. So that impressed them, that he was at least mature enough to handle the situation, and it was a job interview. And for those who have conducted job interviews, and I have several times, there are certain things that really enamor me and show me that I'm impressed by them. And those would be the things, is that they're taking it seriously. So Caleb is taking this very seriously, and they appreciate his personality and his style that he's brought into it. But they did say they need to continue the process. Now, there's multiple things to be taken from this. Number one, they love Caleb Williams. Number two, if they love someone and they don't see Caleb as generational, like I don't, if they see these hitches in him and they say, well, Jaden Daniels is a 1B, and I see both of these guys being top 10, top 5 quarterbacks, and it's really just who we want to take and develop. And if you didn't see Kay Adams from Up and Adams yesterday, mentioned how the Commanders have done all these things to put themselves in line to go after Caleb Williams, and that hasn't changed. So just because everything points to the Bears taking Caleb Williams, and everything points to that direction, especially after Justin Fields was traded, that doesn't mean the Commanders shouldn't go after it. That doesn't mean they shouldn't do everything they can to go after it. Now, let me pull it up real quick. On the Rich Hill trade value chart, the number one pick is worth 1,000 points. So straight across, Washington has number 2, number 36, number 40 in the second round, so 2. 3 picks in the third round, 67, 78, and 100. 2 picks in the fifth round, 139 and 152, and a pick in the seventh round, 222. So they have very high draft capital. They have some value. They have some stock to work with. Now, if you've made these moves, you have new ownership. You have Magic Johnson and company. I know he's a minority owner, but he's talked about how he wants to make a splash. And you brought Cliff Kingsbury in, and you clearly stole him away from the Raiders because it appeared that you could work with your golden boy. And your golden boy is from Washington, D.C., his hometown. Now, if I'm Caleb, I want to go to the Bears. Look what the Bears have done to increase this team. But if you're the Commanders and you want to bring him in and you think he's special, you think he's generational, why wouldn't you go after it like Kay Adams was talking about yesterday? Why wouldn't you offer 1-2? 236, 367, and I mentioned earlier on Twitter that I really think that comp pick they got is the topper. So let's say they gave that. 1-2, 236, 367, and 100. That's 110, 276, 993. So still less. And then you're going to overpay to come up. So you give a future first. You give next year's first. Possibly even the year after that's third. Who knows? Not a huge overpay. That's only an overpay by 30%. Now, if they do that, the thing stopping them is if the Bears say, no, we want Caleb. He's worth more than a first, second, third, another third comp pick, late third/fourth, and a future first. Or Ryan Poles can be building this value up higher than it's ever been because that's what's happening right now. This value is higher than it's ever been. People are enamored with Caleb Williams, especially the press and the media and the talking heads. They love him. They are so in love with him. So in love that when I say something on my channel, like comparing just stats, just how they did over the year. Well, that's out of context. That's not appropriate. You can't do that. Why can't I? Why can't I make whatever comparisons I want to try to figure out what I think? Why am I not allowed to? Because it goes against the agenda. It goes against the talking points. It goes against this generational quarterback that you're going to regret it. When he's the quarterback of the Bears, you're going to regret that you ever said anything negative about him. Well, I'm not talking crap on Caleb Williams. I'm showing and pointing out the facts of where things have been. I'm pointing out what he did and what he didn't do, and he did a lot of good. His touchdown interception ratio was pretty freaking good. He also fumbled a freaking ton. He also missed a ton of receivers he should have hit. To the point where I don't think he's generational. I think he's at the top of this class behind Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, but that's my opinion. And you're going to have 50,000 different opinions. I promise you that. So if Ryan Poles isn't telling everyone this, it would be stupid. It would be suicide to do that. But he says, guys, we've analyzed this, and I really like this Jaden Daniels kid. And by the way, I was mocked because I said the Bears would be going to LSU's Pro Day. And until today, that wasn't confirmed. And so all these people that are trying to force Caleb Williams to be the Bears pick said the Bears aren't even going. They went to Caleb Williams. They came out in droves. They're not even going to Jaden Daniels. Well, why would you say that? Because it's on the same day as the league meeting. Well, he confirmed today that they intend to leave the Pro Day or the league meetings early, that they will fly to LSU for Pro Day and then go back to Chicago. And it's pretty neat, the process he opened up about what they're going to do. We'll get into that. But he said, we don't know who I'll take yet. Hopefully it just hits me. So, guys, the decision's not made yet. And I'm going to stick to that, not because I'm a stubborn cuss, because I am a stubborn cuss, but because the reality of the situation is they have not decided yet. And if Washington comes to them and offers their first, a swap of 2-1, and we still get to pick one of 1A or 1B, and say we like Jaden Daniels more, and the risk there, say that Washington trades up and they take Jaden Daniels. Nonetheless, the Bears still get Caleb Williams. They don't look bad. They don't look like they have egg on their face because they just pulled off a draft day. They just got Caleb Williams. They got a second, 2/3, and a future first. But that's not what would happen. Washington would trade up, and we get the quarterback that they deemed they wanted all along, Jaden Daniels. That's why they won't trade down farther than that. And I know a lot of people want them to, and want them to take J.J. McCarthy later, or Michael Penix, or Bo Nix. When you're this high in the draft, you cannot drop down that far. It's not allowed. It would be career ending. It would be career suicide. You're going to have to take the guy that you deem. Now, if they like Jaden Daniels and Washington calls and says, what's it going to take to get you off of Caleb? Is there anything we can do? Well, we really like Caleb, but anything's possible. You tell us what it would take. Well, what if we gave you a first, second, 2/3 in this stacked class and a future first? Yeah, that might do it. How about you throw in another third? How about you throw in something else? Who knows what's going to end up happening? And it might not happen, guys. That's why I keep saying it's 90% we're taking Caleb Williams. These things are fantasy, but it's the reality of where this situation is. All right. So it's not over. That's the point of that. Now, I did think it was interesting how we opened up about the number 9 pick. Because I'm convinced more than ever we are trading down that number 9 pick. He talked about the possibilities there, and he likes the number of players that we can get at number 9. Now, the way he said that made it seem like there was enough players to trade down. And when you think about what teams are there fighting for quarterbacks right behind 9, number 11, number 12, and number 13 picks are all fighting for quarterbacks. Who's going to be fighting the hardest is number 13, Las Vegas. Because they're 7th. Of all the teams that need quarterbacks, they're 7th. Now, they might try to trade into number 6, number 5. They might try to trade higher. But a lot of people are talking about how Minnesota might trade up. Well, then you've got very few options. And you're looking at this next tier, and you're looking at Bo Nix, and you're liking Bo Nix, and you're liking Michael Penix Jr., and you're saying, we really like this guy, and the Bears are sitting there at 9. 4 quarterbacks have come off the board, and there's 2 left, and you really like your guy. You're going to overpay to come from 13 to 9. That's going to happen. So you're looking at that. And let me look at Las Vegas right now. So if we look at Las Vegas, on the Rich Hill trade value chart, number 9 is worth 387. Number 13 is worth 336. So it's only a 50 difference. A 50 would be roughly their third rounder. But if you're looking at that, and if you look at your mock simulators, now guys, I'm going to be the first one to tell you the mock simulators aren't accurate. Where they have players ranked, what you can get in value, it's not accurate. But when you take into context trading up for a quarterback, look what the Bears did to come from 20 to 9 to get Justin Fields. You overpaid to do that. So it's very possible we could get their second. We can get 13 and 44 and even a potential future 4th for them trading up from 13 to 9. Now, what he said was once we go to LSU's Pro Day, which they made it abundantly clear they were going to go to, that they'll go back and they're going to break up into teams. And it was very interesting. He gave us the focus of where we're going to be on this draft. We're obviously taking a quarterback. He said we're going to break them to teams of offensive tackle, wide receiver, and defensive end. And have them debate each other, basically, of why we should take a certain player at 9. Now, when he said there's a large number of players we can get at 9, when he made that comment, that means from 9 to 13, there's a lot of players they like. Now, if they're going to debate all these players and they're going to put their big board, I can imagine in the room, in Hallis Hall, the big board, or the draft room, they're going to have players A, B, C, D, and these are the ones we're good with, and there's 7 players here we're happy with taking at number 9. Okay, we're going to trade down to 13, and as these players come off the board, this is player A, B, C, and D, and it's worth it for us to trade down and get a second-round pick, which helps you understand why a player like Zach Frazier was met with at the Combine, had a formal visit, and is scheduled for a top 30 visit. Now, you don't take every player you have a top 30 visit with because they're not always available on your draft board. And you look at the players that were taken. Actually, Ryan Poles has taken quite a few that he has. But that's why you bring him in, to drill him, see if you like him, see if you like what you got. But you're not going to even consider Zach Frazier if you're not trading down, if you're not getting extra draft picks. So it's very interesting how this all shakes out. In fact, here's a list. Within that first pick range, the players that they've had either formal visits or top 30 with are Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy. And the Bears have confirmed that Ryan Poles is not going to North Carolina's Pro Day, which to me was pretty telling. But they will be sending people to North Carolina's Pro Day. So within that first pick, those are the guys that are right there. Now, right around 9, they have top 30 visits already scheduled as Dallas Turner and Brock Bowers. Now, Joe Alt went to Notre Dame, and if you guys don't know, players that grew up around your geographical area or went to colleges within a certain radius of your stadium are allowed to have a free top 30 visit. They can come in. So it's not just 30, it's 30 plus whoever's in your vicinity. So Joe Alt can come in for a top 30 visit, but they had formals with Rome Odunze, Joe Alt, Jared Verse, Leatu Latu, and now they have top 30s scheduled with Dallas Turner and Brock Bowers. Those are all within that 9 range. So there's 6 players they're at least interested in at this point, right there at 9. Now, if they're comfortable, the same way we were talking about at 1, I mean, we go through our mock draft simulators, guys, and we look at, okay, one time Joe Alt was there. I'd take them in a heartbeat. Oh, Rome Odunze was there. I'd take him in a heartbeat. Brian Thomas Jr. is one of those players that if he's there at 13 after we've traded down, I can't pass up on him. His size and his speed and his separation that he had in college is at 152 passer rating when targeted. It's unheard of. So you've got all these guys right there, but then there's a couple players that are right there in no man's land because we pick at 90 and then we pick at 75. Zach Frazier, Xavier Worthy, Adisa Isaac, Jatavion Sanders, Brendan Rice, Kieran Abinjabi, who has a top 30 visit scheduled. All expected to be picked before the 75th overall pick. Ryan Poles isn't going to sit pat with those 4 picks, guys. Now, he said, if we do just end up staying put, and it was very cheeky. You could hear it in him. If you listen to that interview, you can hear it in him. Where he's saying, if we stand pat, we're good with that. We've had 28 picks in 3 years. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean that one bit. We're trading down somewhere, most likely at 9. And then there's other players, top 30 with Nehemiah Pritchett, Marshawn Lloyd they met with at the Pro Day. Those are right in line with the 122nd pick. And then they're going to meet with people that could be undrafted. We like to look at those prospects, Jalen Harrell, Deshaun Mallory. I mean, there's going to be a lot that get added to this list. So it was 25 picks in 3 years. I apologize. 25 picks in 3 years. So there's going to be a lot that happens here in the next little bit. But Ryan Poles' words were very telling. All right, so let's get back to the whole do right by Justin thing. The fact that he drove to Matt Eberflus's house was very telling to me. And tell me what you guys think. Tell me how you feel about that. Because if you do that, you just didn't do it over the phone in a conference call, that means someone needed to be settled about that decision. It wasn't decided before then. And I think the pressure came down on them that it was too much. This hype had gotten too real. And he talked about how Justin could sit in the same room, and they discussed that just couldn't happen in the end, so we had to make the decision to move on. So these were all hard decisions, but the fact that he drove and met with Matt Eberflus, someone was not settled about this decision. And it had to be settled in person. And it had to be something where they did so that they could move forward together with a cohesive unit. So I don't think it was settled before then. I've still got this picture up. I don't need this up. I had that up the whole time. We'll leave the little bear logo up because he's cute. All right. This was a 100% a cap space issue, guys. This was 100% about, he mentioned Justin Fields was improving, but that time just ran out. And that's 100% what it was. So as much as that hurts some fans and it's difficult, it is a business. And he quoted DJ Moore, business is business. And that's what it comes down to. But we have one of the top prospects in this class. We have a quarterback that can be top of the league. And if developed properly, can turn into Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. I mean, really, that's where we stand. And they're going to know how to develop these guys better than you or I. They're going to know what they need to do to take a Geno Smith situation and turn him into better than he should be. or better than anybody else could untap that potential is probably a better way to say it. They're a professional organization. Let me pause this for 1 second. Pause the cough, and I didn't even realize we're already at 30-minute, guys. I'm not going to keep this too much longer, but there's a lot coming up. There's a lot of big things happening this next week and in the next month, and we're going to see things unfold. I'm going to make it known right here. I put my neck on the line all the time for my feelings and my thoughts and my analysis, and I really do believe at this point it just went from 90-10 to 80-20. Crucify me if you want to. Mock it, say what you want, but I think that value is built so high, and I think Kay Adams hit it on the head yesterday. The Commanders now are in a position where we're going to go through these pro days, and they've leveraged themselves, and now you see them talking about how, no, we could trade down from 2. They're not trading down from 2. They just traded their starting quarterback. If it's lying season, look at what people are saying. The Commanders are not trading back from 2. They have a first, 2 seconds, 3 thirds. They're not trading back from 2. They're going to take the best player available. Not only that, they're lying through their teeth to make it seem like they don't need to take who they want to take. They're basically playing chicken, saying, okay, you guys don't want Caleb? Don't take him. We'll take Jaden Daniels. It's not the reality of the situation. As we go through pro days, they're going to ask Caleb what the Bears said about him. They're going to ask the feel they have for him. They're going to go through their own pro day. And no, I don't know when the Commanders pro day, or not pro day, but top 30 visit is set up. Let me see if there's anything on that. All right, just did a quick Google search just to see. I don't see anything on it. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on that. But they'll do their own visit with Caleb Williams. 100% they're going to do that. And you're going to see that build up and ramp up, and you're going to see the value of this number 1 pick get sky high. And if I'm Ryan Poles and I really do go to this LSU pro day, they're going to downplay it. They're not going to make it seem like they're super interested. They'll meet with Jaden Daniels. Watch. I'm going to tell you right now. Watch. They're going to meet with Jaden Daniels. They're going to meet with Brian Thomas. They'll probably meet with Mason Smith, Malik Neighbors. They'll meet with all of them. And they'll probably have individual meetings of some sort or another, maybe even dinner with one of them, maybe even Jaden Daniels. And they'll meet with them, and they'll downplay it. And the media will downplay it. And it won't be a big deal. It's just part of the process. It's just checking the boxes. But inside, if they love Jaden Daniels, they will keep that hush-hush. And then the Commanders will come knocking. Look, we've played chicken long enough. We want Caleb Williams. Are you willing at all to come off of him? Well, we really like Caleb Williams. I mean, it's pretty hard. We'll never not listen. Got to keep my ears open. I mean, you've heard Ryan Poles say that so many times this offseason already. It would be irresponsible not to listen. Well, listen, what do you have for us? Well, what about swapping the first, a second, and a future first? No, we wouldn't do that no. We like Caleb Williams. All right, let's go away. Let's kick the tires a little bit more. Okay. You know what? We really like Caleb Williams. And this might come right down to draft night. Guys, have you made your decision? Is it Caleb Williams? And you won't see the Bears make a public decision saying we're taking Caleb Williams. Will not happen. That would limit too much opportunity. Now, if they love Caleb Williams and we're taking Caleb Williams, that's something a team would say is, yeah, we're definitely taking Caleb Williams. You've seen it in the past. When a number 1 overall pick is consensus done, hands down, they've said, yeah, we're taking him. This is the direction we're going. No doubt about it. It's not about 1-1. It's about 1-2 at this point. Well, you hear some pundits saying that. You hear some talking heads saying that, but you have not heard those words from the Chicago Bears, where they're head over heels. In fact, the exact words were, we need to continue the process, gain clarity as we move forward, and continue to finish that process. And when asked specifically, do you know who you're taking at 1? I don't know who we'll take yet. Hopefully it just hits me at some point. That was his words. Now, I realize we're playing the hypothetical game, guys. I realize that's where we are, but there is meat and potatoes in this on psychology and how it works in the draft. You'll see the Bears downplay the meeting with Jaden Daniels. You'll see the Bears go through their top 30 visit. You'll see Caleb Williams go to a couple of other top 30 visits. I doubt he'll go to that many. You'll hear some draft rumblings and maybe some teams saying that they'll consider trading up and maybe Caleb will go to them. But this could come all the way down to draft day. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm still saying now 80% the Bears take Caleb. because what it's going to take is the Commanders having the cojones to overcome the stigma that teams will get robbed by the Bears because of what happened last year. The Bears fleeced the Panthers, set their organization back. The Commanders are not in the same boat. They've already made huge acquisitions this offseason. They had the highest salary cap, and they've been spending, and they've got some great players that they've brought in. They also have a lot of draft capital, and even if they gave up a first, a second, a third, and their comp pick, the Commanders are still going to have a first, a second, a third, and most of their normal picks. They traded a lot of players off, and they acquired a lot of capital. They can afford to do this for Caleb Williams. So this is going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting how it shakes out. I might go live during LSU's Pro Day to give you my thoughts and opinions as it's happening. I do have NFL Plus. Maybe I'll let some of it play in the background. I can't show the video. I don't know how much audio I should show either. But I'll probably do a little live session because the Pro Days aren't that long. So I might do that. That's tomorrow. So maybe I'll do that. This is huge, though. This is a historic offseason for the Chicago Bears. And what's going to happen next, criticize me all you want. I really think the door is wide open at this point. It is not closed. After everything I've watched, everything I've analyzed, everything I've broken down, and then hearing the comments that I've heard from Ryan Poles about the process and what they're going to do next is very interesting to me, especially when you look at the top 30 visits, the formal interviews that they've done. Now, I realize that doesn't mean everything. It doesn't. But if you've shown interest in Zach Frazier, who was my second favorite prospect, let me pull up. I'm going to pause this. Okay, this was the video I made about the centers heading into the NFL Combine. And you see the two on there. They were my favorite two. Number one, everyone knows I love Jackson Powers Johnson. I've hyped him up. I've absolutely shown how I think he's generational, and that label truly fits him. But then I put Zach Frazier on the front for a reason. And that was this reason right here. So here we're, according to where the consensus analysts say these guys rank, Jackson Powers Johnson was 29th in the draft. That's gone up since the Combine. 37th for Graham Barton, 47th for Zach Frazier, Cedric Von Pron, 103, blah, blah, blah. But I showed the statistic that I love, the sack hit hurry. Jackson Powers Johnson only allowed one, and that was a hurry. It wasn't even the serious variety of a sack over his entire not senior year, but his final year here in 2023. So 458 plays between a sack, hit, or hurry. Once all year in 458 pass blocking snaps. Well, right behind him, look who really was number two. Zach Frazier, 51.3. And on top of that, his pass blocking and run blocking grades were both phenomenal, and he had very low penalties. So I said he was my second favorite. Most of my mock drafts where we acquire from Washington going down to 36 and 40, I pick up Zach Frazier almost every single time. Coleman Shelton is on a one-year deal. Having him learn behind him and not be forced to rush in, phenomenal. Great opportunity. The Bears have a top 30 visit scheduled with him, and they've already done a formal visit with him at the Combine. So if you're not planning on getting a high second-round pick, how are you going to acquire him? Now, I guess we could use a future second-rounder to trade in, but a lot of teams aren't going to want to trade out of this year's draft class. And that was another thing Ryan Poles talked about, is how there's a surplus of players this year and next year. And we're set up with a first, 2 seconds, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and 2 sixths next year. So higher draft capital than most because of what we've done in this next draft class. A lot of players returning to school. That whole COVID year left an influx of players later, and then it's going to start dwindling back to normal. So we're really at higher value draft classes right now. So it's pretty neat. All right, so we'll wrap this up. Free Talk Tuesday. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'm out on a limb here. I'm putting myself out there saying that I still see the historic haul coming at 80% now. I realize we're probably going with Caleb Williams, but I don't see him separating himself from Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. I don't. And if I don't see that, I guarantee other people see that too. But I also recognize that Caleb Williams is the consensus number one, and that he has a special arm. And that's the biggest thing about him, the way that he manipulates the ball and can get it out. And with proper coaching, he probably will be right up there in the top 5 of this class. So what did the Bears see, though? And so I'm putting myself on a limb and saying this is still possible, guys. And I'm not just quirky and saying those things. With the comments you're seeing, the way I've laid it out that it would happen, this is super possible. We really, really could see something historic happen still. And that's just going to come down to whether the Bears are able to milk that from the Commanders and if they have a 1A and a 1B. Now, if Caleb Williams is up here at 1 and 2, Ryan Poles, all the rest of them are down here at 2, not 1A, not 1B, but down here at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he's not going to do it. And that would be coming from 9 to 13 where we'd acquire that number 44 and hope Zach Frazier's there, or trade up from 44 into the 30s with a future pick to be able to acquire him. So, and I'm not saying we're definitely taking Zach Frazier. I'm just saying it is interesting. He did lay out quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle, and edge. So that's going to happen. And it's not really going to happen with quality guys unless you can do that at the top of the draft. And then we still need a tight end 3. We still need a defensive interior, and still need a couple of more depth pieces. So there's still places to fill, and we only have 4 picks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Free Talk Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Really appreciate everyone who tunes in, who enjoys this ranting, who enjoys listening to my perspectives on things. It's fun to interact with you guys. I will be heading to Arlington on Thursday for the Cubs season opener, so I won't put out as much. If something big happens, I'll go live, or I'll make a short, or I'll try to do something from remote. But I'll be there through the weekend games, so I won't be doing a lot there. I think I might go live tomorrow for LSU's Pro Day because there's that much on the line with it, and the Bears are leaving the winter meetings early to get to that. So, or on the last day on time, right on time to get there in time. Whatever they want to deem it, however you guys want to deem it. But so I'll probably go live for a little bit for that. Come and join me if you want to. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for being here. And until next time, as always, the theme of the show, bear down.